Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button, share your thoughts, subscribe and tap the bell icon. She stepped in like she didn't belong. The automatic doors slid open behind her. The air conditioning blasted cold against her face. The lobby smelled like luxury, fresh orchids, polished floors, leather, and citrus. But she didn't smell like that. She smelled like soap. And maybe bus dust. The front desk staff didn't look up. The bellboy glanced. Then ignored. She stood still. Her back was straight. Her eyes scanned the golden ceiling, the chandelier, the rows of velvet chairs. Her feet didn't move. But something about her presence shifted the space. She wore no makeup. Her hair was in a simple braid. Her handbag had peeling handles. In her other hand, she held a plain white paper bag. No brand name. No logo. Then, the manager saw her. He didn't just see. He judged. He walked over. You could hear the click of his shoes on the polished floor. His name tag read RAN. His suit looked freshly ironed. He smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said. "Are you looking for someone?" She met his eyes. Calm. "I have a booking," she said. Her voice was soft. He frowned. "Here?" She nodded. "Can I see the reservation?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded A4 paper. No phone. No app. Just ink on paper. He took it. He scanned the name. Then something in his face changed. He blinked. Only once. But it was enough. Still, he held his ground. "There must be a mistake," he said. "This property isn't open for public bookings today. We're fully booked with VIP guests." Her face stayed blank. "I called yesterday," she said. "They confirmed." He gave her a cold smile. "I'm sorry. There's nothing we can do. The system sometimes glitches. These things happen." A woman in heels walked by and glanced at the scene. She kept walking. 2 foreign tourists checked in. The receptionist gave them warm smiles. But nobody looked at the woman now standing awkwardly near the corner. The manager handed back the paper. "You might want to try another hotel, ma'am. There's a 3-star right across the street. They may have something in your range." She didn't answer. Instead, she walked to the edge of the lobby and sat down. She rested the paper bag on her lap. Her chin lifted just a little. Ryan turned to leave. His jaw tight. His ears red. She stayed there. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Nobody offered her water. Nobody asked if she needed help. At least 4 guests whispered while looking at her. She didn't fidget. She didn't cry. She just waited. And then the door opened again. The automatic sensors buzzed. The noise of the outside street poured in for half a second. A man walked in. Tall. Dark suit. No tie. A calm face. But the way he walked made people turn. He walked like he owned the floor. Like his time was worth gold. His eyes locked on the woman sitting near the flower stand. She stood the second she saw him. Their eyes met. No one said anything. But something in the room shifted again. He turned to the front desk. His steps were steady. Ryan saw him. And froze. You could see the panic crawl over his face. The man didn't raise his voice. He didn't rush. He pulled out a black card from his inner pocket and placed it on the counter. Silence. The receptionist's hand shook as she picked it up. One glance. She looked up. Her mouth opened. then closed. The bellboy stepped back, as if the card had weight. Ryan walked over, trying to smile. But it came out wrong. Too tight. Too late. The man looked at him. "Is this how your staff treats my wife?" he asked. His voice was low. But it filled the room. Now people turned. Heads turned. Even the manager at the cafe door stopped in mid-sentence. Ryan tried to speak. "Sir, I didn't know. There was a mix-up in." The man raised one finger. "That's all." Ryan went silent. The man turned to his wife. "Are you all right?" She nodded. He turned back to the counter. "Her name is on the booking," he said. She was supposed to be escorted to the royal suite. Instead, she was asked to leave. "Is that correct?" The receptionist nodded. Eyes wide. He leaned in. Quietly. "Then bring the GM. Now." The staff moved like wind. One ran toward the back office. Another called on the landline. A third whispered into a walkie-talkie. The woman stood still. She didn't look proud. She didn't look angry. Just calm. The man took her hand. And now, the guests were no longer whispering. They were watching. Every second stretched. 2 minutes later, the general manager came rushing down the elevator hall. He was older. Gray at the temples. Expensive suit. Nervous eyes. "Sir, I had no idea." The man didn't shake his hand. He pointed toward his wife. "She sat here for over 30 minutes, he said. She wasn't offered water. She was insulted. And she was asked to go to a cheaper place." The GM's face turned pale. The man placed the card back on the counter. "I don't want excuses," he said. "I want answers." The GM swallowed. Then turned to Ryan. "You're dismissed. Go." Ryan stood still. "Sir, I didn't." "Now." Ryan walked away. Fast. His shoes no longer clicked. The GM faced the couple again. "Sir, we apologize. You have full access to the royal suite. And we will extend your stay. On us." The man didn't react. He turned to his wife. "Would you like to stay?" She looked around. Slowly. Then shook her head. "No." He nodded. The GM tried again. "Ma'am, we deeply regret." The man raised his hand again. "She gave you a chance," he said. "You chose judgment." He turned away. He held his wife's hand. They walked out. Together. No one said a word. Even the chandelier above seemed to dim. The lobby that laughed 30 minutes ago now looked ashamed. The bellboy picked up the paper bag left on the chair. He looked inside. Just a box of sweets. And a note. It said, "For the staff. Thank you." The moment the door closed behind them, the lobby was filled with a heavy silence. Guests were still frozen in place. Some stood at the front desk, but none dared approach. The hum of the air conditioning seemed louder now, a stark reminder of the tension that had just unfolded. The woman and her husband didn't look back. They stepped out of the hotel and into the quiet, warm street. The noise of the world outside seemed louder now, and yet, they felt strangely isolated from it. They walked in silence. No words. Her hand clutched his. She had known him long enough to understand when silence meant comfort, and when it was a shield against something painful. Finally, he stopped walking. The man's face, usually unreadable, looked tired now. There was something in his eyes, something that hadn't been there before. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice quiet. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes glanced at the pavement beneath her feet. It was a busy street, but all she saw were the cracks in the sidewalk. The same ones she'd stepped over countless times before. But today felt different. "I don't know," she said after a long pause. "I should be fine." "You are," he said, squeezing her hand. "You are fine. But what just happened back there, it's not your fault." She nodded. But she didn't believe him. In the back of her mind, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The way the manager had looked at her, no, it wasn't just judgment. It was disgust. And it felt too familiar. The streetlights flickered. The shadows grew longer as the sun began to set. But the silence between them was thick now. Not the kind of comfortable quiet they were used to. This one was filled with unspoken thoughts, the kind that gnawed at the edges of the mind and wouldn't let go. They had been through worse. But this was different. As they passed a small cafe, the man stopped. He glanced at the entrance, then at his wife. "I'll be right back," he said. Before she could answer, he was already walking inside. She stood there for a moment, her fingers still pressed against her palm, feeling the cool weight of the silver ring he had given her years ago. It had never left her hand. The only constant in a world that seemed to shift with every passing moment. But now, as she watched him disappear into the cafe, she wondered how much she truly knew him. She couldn't explain it. It was a feeling, a pull. Something tugging at her heart that she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. She had spent so much time keeping her thoughts in check. Keeping the doubts buried. But now, they were clawing at the surface. She needed answers. And she needed them fast. Inside the cafe, her husband spoke to the barista in a low voice. He ordered a coffee, but his eyes never left the window. He was looking for something. Someone. But who? He had been acting strangely ever since they had left the hotel. He had been quiet, yes, but not in the way he usually was when deep in thought. It was the way he avoided looking at her that concerned her most. She could feel the distance between them growing with each step. And when he returned, there was a tightness around his mouth. The look in his eyes had shifted again. Something was changing. "Let's go back to the hotel," he said, his voice sounding too calm. She looked at him for a moment, searching his face for any sign of the man she married. But she didn't find anything familiar. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was steady, but there was an edge to it now. He hesitated. The words didn't come easily. "We need to talk," he finally said. Her heart raced. They walked back toward the hotel in silence. She couldn't help but feel the weight of the past hanging between them like a thick fog. What had he been hiding from her all these years? Back in the hotel lobby, the scene was eerily different. The usual buzz of conversation was replaced with hushed whispers and the sound of footsteps that seemed too loud. The manager was nowhere to be seen. But the receptionist was still at the counter, her face pale and tense. She avoided eye contact as the couple walked past her, headed toward the elevators. They didn't stop to speak to anyone. It was only when they reached the elevator that her husband spoke again. "You need to know something," he said, his voice low, careful. She looked at him, trying to read his expression, but it was impossible. "What?" she asked, her pulse quickening. He took a deep breath. "I'm not just anyone," he said, his words hanging in the air. She frowned. "What do you mean by that?" His eyes locked onto hers, the intensity of his gaze forcing her to take a step back. "I'm not who you think I am," he said quietly. The elevator door opened, but she didn't step inside. "I've been trying to keep you safe," he continued. "But there are things you don't know. Things I've kept from you. Things about my past, about us." She felt the ground beneath her feet shift. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice cracking now. But he didn't answer. He stepped into the elevator, and she followed, her mind racing. He pressed the button for the top floor. And then, for the first time in years, they were alone. The elevator ride was quiet. But it was the kind of silence that spoke louder than any words could. When the door finally opened, they stepped out into a long hallway. The lights above flickered as they walked. He stopped in front of a door. "This is it," he said. "This is where it all started." She looked at him, confused. "What are you talking about?" He opened the door. Inside, the room was dark. There were no windows. No sign of life. Just a large table in the center of the room. On the table, there was a single folder. He walked over to it, his hand shaking. "Everything you need to know is in here," he said. She approached slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. "What's in that folder?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He opened it slowly. Inside were papers, dozens of them. Contracts. Legal documents. Photos. And then, there it was. A photo of the hotel manager, Ryan. But it wasn't the photo that shocked her. It was the name written next to it. Ryan Hazim. The son of a notorious criminal underworld boss. She felt the floor beneath her give way. Her husband turned to her, his eyes cold now. "This is what I've been keeping from you. I had to protect you from this world." She stepped back. Everything she thought she knew about her life was now in question. The air in the room was suffocating. The folder on the table felt heavier than it was, as if it carried 1,000 secrets she wasn't prepared to know. Her hand trembled as she reached for it, her fingers hovering over the papers. She didn't want to touch them. Didn't want to know what lay between the folds. But she had to. There was no other choice. Her husband stood by the door, his eyes fixed on her with a mixture of guilt and determination. The way he was watching her made her feel like a stranger. She didn't know him anymore. The man she had married, the man she had loved, was suddenly a mystery. "You're not the man I thought you were," she whispered, almost to herself. His face tightened, but he didn't move. He didn't speak. She turned her attention back to the folder. Slowly, carefully, she pulled it closer. The top sheet was a contract, with terms and conditions she didn't understand. There were names, dates, numbers. But it was the photo beneath it that caught her attention. It was a picture of Ryan. The same man who had mocked her in the hotel lobby. The same manager who had dismissed her, made her feel like she didn't belong. And underneath his photo, the words were clear: Ryan Hazim, son of the notorious crime boss, Zain Hazim. She felt her stomach drop. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Her husband's gaze didn't falter. "I told you, I'm not who you think I am. Why didn't you tell me this?" Her voice rose, fear and anger mixing in her chest. "Why didn't you warn me?" He took a step forward, his face softening for a moment. "I wanted to protect you. From everything." "From what?" "Your past." He nodded. "Yes." She opened the folder wider, pulling out more papers. There were contracts for properties, illegal dealings that went back years. There were names she recognized and names she didn't. People from his world, his dangerous world, whose lives had been tangled in corruption, power, and crime. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw it all away, to pretend she hadn't seen any of it. But she couldn't. And then, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A photo of a younger version of Ryan. But this time, he was standing next to someone she didn't recognize. A man, older, with a cruel smile that made her stomach twist. It was Zain Hazim. His father. Her breath caught in her throat. Why did you keep this from me? She asked, her voice shaking. He closed his eyes, running a hand through his hair. I wanted a different life. A clean life. I left all of that behind to start over with you. You lied to me, she whispered. For years. I didn't want you to be a part of that world. You deserved better. You still do. But I don't even know who you are anymore. Her words hit him like a slap. She saw the pain flicker in his eyes, but it didn't change the truth. She was scared. Terrified. Her entire life had been a lie, built on secrets and hidden truths. Please, don't leave me, he said, his voice breaking. I love you. I always have. And I always will. But it wasn't enough. She stood up, backing away from him. I don't know if I can stay. I don't know if I can trust you anymore. Please. Just listen to me, he pleaded. You don't understand. My father, he's dangerous. People like him don't let go. They never forget. What are you saying? Her voice was barely a whisper. I thought I could protect you from it. But I've failed. And now they're looking for you. She froze. What? Who? They know who you are. They've been watching us. They know where we are. And they're coming for you. Her heart raced. No, she said, shaking her head. This can't be real. This can't be happening. But deep down, she knew it was. She knew he wasn't lying. The man she had married wasn't just a businessman. He wasn't just a quiet, thoughtful man who had come from a small town. He had ties to a criminal empire. He was part of a world filled with power, violence, and darkness. And now that world was closing in on her. Her head spun. She couldn't think straight. How had everything changed so quickly? I need to go, she said, backing away from him. I need to think. I can't stay here with you. Don't leave me, he begged. Please, not now. Not when we're so close to getting out. You can't just walk away from this. She shook her head. I don't know who you are anymore. I don't know what's real and what's a lie. I need space. I need time. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to walk toward the door. I'll figure this out, she said, her voice cracking. But I can't be with you right now. Not like this. And then she left. She didn't know where she was going. She just walked. Through the hotel's back hallways, out into the streets, and away from him. She didn't look back. There was a strange numbness in her chest, like her heart had frozen over. She walked with no direction, her thoughts swirling around the truth she had just uncovered. The man she had loved, the man she had trusted with her life, had lied to her. And he hadn't just lied, he had kept her in the dark about everything. And now, his past was catching up to them both. She didn't know how much time passed as she walked through the city. Everything felt distant. The people, the cars, the buildings, all of it seemed so far away. Until she turned a corner. And saw them. The men in black suits. They were standing across the street, watching her. She couldn't see their faces clearly, but she knew who they were. They were his people. The people her husband had tried to protect her from. She froze. Her heart stopped. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. The men weren't looking at her like a stranger. They were looking at her like she was part of their world. And then, one of them stepped forward. It was the man from the photo. The older man. The one who had been standing next to Ryan all those years ago. Zain Hazim. He smiled at her, a cold, calculating smile. You've been very hard to find, he said. But we knew you'd come to us eventually. Her blood ran cold. "You're coming with us," he said, stepping closer. She didn't know what to do. Her heart pounded in her chest. But she wasn't going to go down without a fight. The city had never felt so cold. She stood on the street corner, facing Zain Hazim, her heart racing in her chest. His men, dressed in dark suits, stood behind him, silently observing her every move. She felt trapped. Caught between the man who had once been her protector and the terrifying reality of the world he had kept hidden from her. Zain's smile was the same cruel, calculating smile she had seen in the photo. But now, it was directed at her, and the fear she felt grew by the second. "You've been very difficult to find, haven't you?" Zain's voice cut through the air like a knife. She didn't answer. She couldn't. The world she thought she knew was crumbling around her. Her husband, the man she had loved and trusted, had kept her in the dark about everything. The past he had hidden from her was now threatening to destroy her future. But Zain wasn't here to talk about the past. He was here to make sure she never walked away from it. She took a step back, trying to put some distance between them. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Zain's gaze didn't leave her face. "You're part of this now, whether you like it or not. The question is, how much are you willing to lose to get out of it?" Her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to run, to escape, but where could she go? The men were everywhere, surrounding her, and she knew she couldn't outrun them. "You don't have to do this," she said, her voice cracking. "You don't have to drag me into your mess." Zain chuckled, his laugh dark and cold. "It's already too late for that." She swallowed hard, trying to steady herself. "I don't belong here. I don't want any part of this. Just let me go." Zain's expression hardened. "You don't get to decide that. You're already involved, sweetheart. Whether you like it or not, you're in this world now." Her mind raced, trying to find a way out of this nightmare. Her body felt heavy, as though the weight of everything, every lie, every betrayal, every hidden truth, was pressing down on her. And then, from behind her, she heard a voice. "Leave her alone." She turned. Her husband was standing at the end of the street, his face a mask of determination. His eyes met hers for a brief moment, but it wasn't the loving gaze she had known. It was something different. Something she couldn't quite place. "Ryan," she whispered. He stepped forward, walking toward her, and the tension in the air grew thicker. Zain's eyes narrowed. "You think you can protect her? After everything you've done, you're going to play the hero now?" Ryan's jaw clenched. "I don't have to explain myself to you. And I don't need your permission to protect my wife." The men in suits shifted, their hands subtly moving toward the weapons hidden beneath their jackets. "I didn't want this for you," Ryan said, his voice steady but filled with regret. "I wanted to keep you safe, far away from all of this. But I can't protect you if you don't understand the danger." "You lied to me," she said, her voice full of hurt. "You kept me in the dark. You didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth." Ryan's face softened. "I thought I was protecting you. But now, I see I've made everything worse." Zain stepped forward, his eyes cold. "You think you can just walk away from this, Ryan? You're in too deep. You're part of my world now." Her husband didn't flinch. "I've been part of your world. But that doesn't mean she has to be. She didn't choose this life. I chose it for her, and that's my mistake." The air between them crackled with tension. For a moment, it seemed like everything was at a standstill. But then, Zain's expression shifted. His cruel smile returned, but this time, it was directed at Ryan. "I think you're underestimating the situation," Zain said, his voice dripping with contempt. "You can't protect her from what's coming. And you can't outrun your past." Ryan's eyes darkened. "We'll see about that. Without another word, he turned to her, his hand outstretched. "Come with me. Now." She hesitated, looking between him and the men surrounding them. But in that moment, she realized she had no other choice. She couldn't stay here. She couldn't let him face this alone. Taking a deep breath, she stepped toward him, her hand slipping into his. Together, they turned and began walking away from Zayn and his men. But before they could get very far, Zayn's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. "Stop them." The men in suits moved toward them, fast. Ryan's grip tightened around her hand. "Run." Without thinking, she sprinted, her heart pounding in her chest. The world around her blurred as she focused on one thing, getting away. They turned a corner and ducked into an alley, but the sound of footsteps behind them grew louder. She could hear their pursuers closing in. Her lungs burned, but she kept running. She had no choice. Finally, Ryan pulled her into a small doorway, hidden from view. They huddled together in the shadows, their breath coming in ragged gasps. They stayed there for what felt like an eternity, the sounds of their pursuers growing fainter as they moved past. She looked up at him, her heart still racing. "What now?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Ryan didn't answer right away. He just stared at her, as if trying to make a decision. Finally, he spoke. "We leave. We leave now. And we don't stop until we're far away from here." "But where will we go?" she asked, her mind still spinning. "Anywhere," he said, his voice full of determination. "We'll start over. Together." She looked into his eyes, searching for the man she had once known. And for the first time since everything had fallen apart, she saw a flicker of the man she had married, the man she had loved. It wasn't over. It couldn't be. They had survived so much already. But there was still one final battle to fight. Together, they could face whatever came next. And for the first time, she believed it. As they stepped out of the alley and into the unknown, she knew that whatever happened, they would face it together. Because survival wasn't just about running, it was about standing tall, even when the world seemed ready to swallow you whole. And they had each other. That was enough.